Meet Kola, a very wealthy man who treats his side chic like a queen, but treats his faithful, praying Christian wife like a servant. Funmi, his wife, prayed every night for God to touch her husband's heart and expose his secret life. One day, God answers her in the most shocking way. Watch until the very end to see what happens when a stingy husband mistakenly alerts his wife's phone instead of his lover's. And don't forget to subscribe, for this is a new channel.
In the big city, Kola was known as a very successful businessman. He made millions every week, but at home, he was the stingiest husband alive. His wife, Funmi, was a deeply devoted Christian woman. Every morning, Kola would strictly count out exactly 2,000 naira and leave it on the dining table for the entire family's food. If Funmi asked for extra money to buy soap or oil, Kola would scream and accuse her of wasting his money. Funmi never fought him or insulted him. Instead, every night while Kola slept, she would kneel by the bedside, lay her hands on his clothes, and pray, "O Lord, touch my husband's heart. Open his eyes and let him see that his family is his first responsibility before you." But Kola was only stingy at home. Outside, he lived like a king and completely forgot his marriage vows. He had a secret girlfriend named Sharon, whom he called his Side Chic. Sharon did not work, but she lived in a luxury apartment paid for by Kola. She wore the finest gold jewelry and flew to expensive destinations, all on Kola's money. Kola loved to show off for Sharon. He never questioned her spending because he wanted to look like a big man. He was spending millions on an outsider, while his own wife, who was busy praying for him, used torn slippers at home and trusted God for a miracle. One Friday afternoon, Sharon called Kola with a major demand. She told him that she found a beautiful brand new luxury car and needed 10 million naira immediately to make the payment. She warned Kola that if he did not send the money within an hour, she would leave him for another rich man. Kola panicked. He loved Sharon's glamorous company and did not want to lose her. He promised her that the 10 million naira would be in her bank account in less than 5 minutes. He completely forgot that God was watching and that the prayers of his faithful wife were already moving in the spiritual realm. Kola quickly opened his premium banking app on his phone. His heart was beating fast because he was rushing. In his phone contact list, both his wife and his side chic had names that started with the letter S. His wife was saved as Sweet Wife from many years ago, and Sharon was saved as Sharon Chic. Because Kola was in a big hurry and not paying close attention, his finger slipped. The Bible says that God can catch the wise in their own craftiness. Kola clicked on Sweet Wife, typed in the 10 million naira, entered his secret PIN, and pressed send, thinking he was pleasing his side chic. Meanwhile, at home, Funmi was sitting on the floor in the living room, manually cleaning the rug because Kola refused to buy a vacuum cleaner. As she cleaned, she was singing a Christian song of praise. Suddenly, her old phone made a loud sound. She picked it up, thinking it was just a regular message. When she opened it, her eyes went wide. She saw an official bank alert showing that 10 million naira had just been deposited into her account by her husband. She dropped to her knees, realizing that God had finally answered her prayers in a supernatural way. Back in his office, Kola smiled and put his phone down. He waited for Sharon to call him with a happy voice. But 5 minutes passed and the phone stayed silent. Instead, a harsh text message came from Sharon. It said, "Are you playing games with me? Where is the money?" Kola's heart dropped into his stomach. He quickly opened his banking app to check the history. When he saw the word Sweet Wife next to the 10 million naira deduction, his face turned pale white. He realized his secret life was about to be completely exposed.
Kola did not even lock his office door. He grabbed his car keys and ran down the stairs like a madman. He jumped into his car and drove through the city traffic at a crazy speed. His mind was racing. He knew Funmi was a woman of prayer, and if she realized this money was a mistake, she would know he had been hiding millions from his own family. He tried to call her phone over and over again, but Funmi's phone was busy because she was busy calling her pastor to share her testimony and confirm that God had sent a miracle. At the house, Funmi had gotten up from the floor. She knelt down before her small altar and raised her hands to heaven. For 5 years, she had endured poverty, shame, and hunger while being married to a multi-millionaire, but she always kept her faith. She believed this money was God's reward for her patience and prayers. She immediately opened her church app and paid her tithe to honor God first. Then she quickly transferred a good amount to her mother for medical bills. She felt a deep Christian joy, knowing that God defends the oppressed. Suddenly, the front door flew open with a loud bang. Kola kicked the door open and rushed into the house, panting like a dog that had been running for hours. His clothes were messy and his eyes were wild. He did not even say hello to his wife. He ran straight to Funmi, grabbed her by the arms, and screamed, "Funmi, the bank made a massive mistake. Did you get an alert? Give me your phone right now. It is a serious security error." Funmi pulled her hands away gently and stepped back. Her faith in God gave her a strange sense of calmness and power that she had never felt before. She calmly picked up her phone from the table and held it tightly. "Why are you sweating, Kola?" she asked quietly. "You told me last night that your business was failing and that you didn't even have 5,000 naira for our daughter's school books. I prayed for God to provide for us, and today 10 million naira appears. Where did it come from?" Kola began to stammer and make up excuses. It belongs to my international company partners," he lied loudly. "They sent it to my account by accident, and I wanted to forward it to our corporate supplier named Sharon Corporation. My finger slipped, Funmi. If I don't send it back right now, the police will arrest me for fraud. Please respect my position as the husband and transfer it back immediately." But Funmi just looked at him, knowing that God was about to expose the truth. While Kola was still shouting and lying, his phone rang loudly on speakerphone inside his pocket. He was so panicked that he answered it without checking the screen. It was Sharon, and her angry voice filled the entire room. "Kola, you useless man," she screamed through the speaker. "You promised to send the 10 million naira for my new car. The car dealer is about to sell it to someone else. Send my money now, or don't ever call me again." The silence in the room after Sharon hung up was heavy. Kola's mask had completely broken. He stood there, exposed as a liar and a cheater before his Christian wife. He looked at Funmi, realizing that his secret life was over. He dropped to his knees right there on the rug. "Funmi, please," he begged, his voice breaking. "I am sorry. I made a mistake. That girl is nothing to me. Just give me the money back so I can settle her and keep our marriage together." Funmi let out a long, deep sigh. She looked at her husband on the floor and said, "Every night, Kola, I knelt down and prayed for God to touch your heart. I prayed for you to see the value of your family. God answered my prayer, but instead of changing you gently, He chose to expose your wicked secrets. You let our children suffer while planning to buy a 10 million naira car for an outsider. Kola, this money is God's judgment. I am not giving back a single kobo." Funmi did not waste any time arguing. While Kola was still sitting on the floor in shock, she walked into the bedroom and packed her bags and her children's clothes into large suitcases. She knew that God does not want His children to live in emotional abuse and deception. She called a taxi, loaded her bags, and took her children. She looked at Kola one last time and said, "I will continue to pray for your soul, Kola, but my children and I are leaving this house of lies." God has delivered us. Desperate to fix his life, Kola drove straight to Sharon's luxury apartment to beg her for time. But when he got there, he found a different rich man putting Sharon's bags into a new sports car. When Kola tried to talk to her, Sharon looked at him with disgust. "Get out of my way, Kola," she shouted. "Since you couldn't send the 10 million naira, I found someone who can do it without making excuses. You are broke." She jumped into the car and drove away, leaving Kola in the dust. With his family gone and his secret life destroyed, Kola's focus at work completely dissolved. God's hand was no longer on his businesses. He made terrible mistakes because he was always distracted, guilty, and depressed. His business partners noticed his bad behavior and cancelled their contracts. Within a few months, Kola's income dried up completely. He had to sell his luxury office and move into a small apartment, experiencing the exact same poverty he had forced his wife to live in. While Kola was falling, Funmi was rising like a bright star because of God's blessing. She used the remaining portion of the 10 million naira to open a modern wholesale Christian grocery and book business in the city. Because she was honest and always put God first, her business grew rapidly. She bought a beautiful, comfortable apartment for her children and paid their school fees easily. She radiated genuine Christian joy, peace, and independent success. One afternoon, as Funmi was walking out of her thriving supermarket, she saw a man in faded clothes standing by her car, looking hungry and tired. It was Kola. He had heard about her success and came to look for her. He looked down in deep shame and whispered, "Funmi, please forgive me. Your prayers finally caught up with me. I am completely broke and I have learned my lesson. Please let me come back home so we can start over as a Christian family." Funmi smiled gently, opened her handbag and took out a single 2,000 naira bill, the exact amount Kola used to give her for daily food. She placed it into his shaking hand. "I forgave you a long time ago, Kola," she said softly. "God answered my prayer to touch your heart. But your pride required a hard lesson. I can help you find a job, but I will never return to a man who values the world more than his family. Use this to buy food today." She got into her car and drove home to her children. The Bible says, "God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble." If you were in her shoes, will you stay or go back to the marriage?